Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the super full power Xeno Limit Breaker Vegito Xeno and how he does in the ultimate red zone against the Merge Zamasu. Now Merge Zamasu has two phases, and as you should all know, his AoEs in his first phase are renowned for being incredibly annoying. We're talking like top tier level irritating. However, Merge Zamasu does have a weakness, that being, well, nothing really. He's quite a pain in the ass, but super full power Xeno Limit Breaker Vegito is a very good solution against him. Now, there's a big difference obviously between any unit at 55% and 100% in the hidden potential system. And Vegito does have a couple constraints on him that make him relatively hard to use outside of the DB Heroes team, but he's an incredibly strong unit, incredibly powerful, incredibly good. He's really solid. There's a couple of things that make him really good, and one of those is obviously his 30% damage reduction that he has for the first 6 turns, coupled with his baseline 30% that he has when all allies attacking in the same turn are Giant A power or crossover. Now remember, you do need to have them be all Giant A power or all crossover. You can't have like 2 and 1 or 1 and 2 of each other. But generally speaking, these two damage reductions combined together give them 60%, and that 60% is generally, at least what I would consider, incredibly reliable. Like it basically protects him during the int phase. Now obviously if he catches a super attack before he supers, that will cause him a lot of issues, as it would any unit realistically. But most times I would say he's very solid. Most times I would say he's very solid. There's obviously situations where he's not so solid, but I would say 9 times out of 10 he's incredibly good. He's incredibly good. So he obviously has his attack and defense 200%. He's got his additional 150 when performing a super attack. This alone, coupled with getting the first 30% damage reduction, generally keeps him quite safe. But it's when you have the second 30% that he really starts to look quite impressive. And on top of that as well, remember, as long as you have a Giant A power or crossover category ally in the same turn, he's basically good to go. Now I do think Giant A power in theory could be a better team for him. I do think that is important. One thing that's super important is if you want him to tank the physical stage, like if you want him to do well on the physical stage, you are going to have to a certain extent, accept that you need to have crossover or Giant A power units. You need to go one of either two ways. If you just want to run him on like a fused fighter or a power beyond Super Saiyan or something, you can, and the 30% will keep him okay. But he's not going to dominate like he could, he's not going to tank like he could. He'll be okay. He'll be more a floating unit, more a second slot unit. But in this state, if you can get things right, you can burst Zamasu down. Vegito is very strong. Like we're talking incredibly powerful. Yeah, I think like the way Vegito works and just the way he functions is really good. Obviously there is a time limit on it, you know, he's not super tanky the whole time. You know, he needs, like after 6 turns he does drop off. Not terribly, he can become a very good second slot unit, but he's no longer got the capabilities to hold down first slot. But one thing that's really good about him, and that I think is great, so his active skill. Yes, okay, it's a little bit restrictive. It can only be activated from the 3rd turn if there's crossover category allies, or from the 6th turn if there's none. But what it does is it guarantees crits, and it also acts as a super attack. So what it does is it actually augments his defense, which means that by using it, and you'll see an example later on, because in this run here that you're watching, we're going to have him get hit by a physical Zamasu with no active skill, and you're going to see him take quite a big chunk of damage. If you use your active skill, you actually dramatically reduce the amount of damage he takes substantially. Like we're talking to ridiculous levels. Like he massively drops down all of that damage that he takes, and it's very impressive. It all of a sudden becomes very impressive. Very good, very solid, great tanking ability. So yeah, I would say, honestly speaking, for me, Vegito is really good. I do think there's things that he could work on. I do think that there are, things that in theory, not that he could work on, but I mean, like, obviously that you might have better options for. It's not like he's the #1 best unit in the game, but I think he's really a heroes unit that's quite up to par with where you want heroes units to be. I think he's designed well enough that he can really take on a lot of the hard content, and he's a solid option against Zamasu. The big thing is his team. I think if you really want to run the heroes team, you can, but I think you need dupes in most of the units. A lot of them have really interesting dynamic passives. Lots of them have things like guard or evasion or things like that, but realistically speaking, stat-wise, they need the dupes. Heroes units have a lower stat pool than other units. I never understood why they do that. I think it's because they like to give them crazy looking passives and everything. But essentially, you need dupes. Like a great example is Vegito, and physical Vegito. Like a rainbow or 2 dupe physical Vegito that gets like double super attacks can tank Zamasu's normals for like 80k. Zamasu or Vegito, sorry, that doesn't have dupes, all of a sudden will take like 200k regardless, and it's just how it is. I think that's realistically the only big problem with him. To run him super effectively, you need to have him on Giant Power or crossover, and to run them on crossover, you need dupes in a lot of these units. With that being said, he's a lot of fun. He is personally a great unit, and he's really cool. So that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know how you feel about Vegito, and but that's gonna be it from me. Bye.